What up? This is a little something on control dramas. The reason I want to talk about control dramas is because I read a beautiful chapter from the Celestine Prophecy. Uh, control dramas are, in essence, a concept that is something like the ways, patterns, actions, way we are that we may use to get the flow of energy of the universe going towards us. So typically, when interacting socially, for example, let's imagine something like someone who's very aloof and mysterious. This is the example that it uses in the main character of the book. It may trigger someone else to be curious about their situation or what they're all about. So that, as you can see, gets energy flowing to them. Another example of a control drama that they mention is the poor me, or something like a victim mindset, where when people are acting out of like, oh gosh, poor me, hence the name, may draw pity, sympathy, or any slew of emotion towards them, which is energy towards them. Attention is sort of like the idea. Those are the two passive control dramas that it mentions in this book. Now, on the other side is the aggressive control dramas, one being the interrogator. Some of you may know someone like this, but imagine something like someone who just asks a lot of questions, probes, gets to know you, and it somehow tends to end up with them criticizing or finding something wrong with how you are or live. Now, this one's really interesting. This, obviously will throw people into, maybe a self-conscious state if they, are discovered to have something quote-unquote wrong with them, and that by nature will pull energy to the person, maybe out of a level of self-righteousness, is how I perceive it. And a level up on the aggressive scale, I believe the fourth or the other control drama is the instigator. But just even if that name isn't correct, imagine it almost like an aggressive person, just genuinely creating a space of danger or potential physical harm, just removing safety from the environment, and or threatening another person's energy. This can make someone feel small or threatened, and by nature, because they have to be, so vigilant and ensure that they are safe from this person who is enacting this control drama, it is by nature channeling energy towards them. So, those are the four control dramas it mentions. Now, you may catch on here that the control dramas are linked from both the passive and the aggressive side. The instigator may create someone who's aloof. Now, let me frame it this way. In the book, it talks about it being related to parent-to-child relationships. So imagine an instigating parent where they're sort of looking and finding flaws in another person's energy, and that may create a child that's aloof or mysterious or just standoffish because they don't want to let off anything that's going to be judged or brought to light that may be scrutinized. So they don't want to let off anything like that, so they're mysterious, and that's how they draw their energy, and that's how they've done it from a young age. So sort of just showing how these can be related in the same way that the furthest aggressive, the instigator, and the poor me control dramas are also related. That one's a little bit more clear. And vice versa. If, for example, a parent is aloof, it may cause a child to be more curious and instigating and finding like, oh, well, why are you doing this, mom, and etc. I actually find it to be quite linked to generational trauma or patterns. So, let's see. I think that concept was beautiful, and the way it frames it in the book is that it is quite important to know what control dramas we may be enacting in our lives, because it allows us to be aware of them and bring it to the front of the consciousness so we can transcend those control dramas. They say it's quite important to know these so that we can move past them and live our life in a much higher calling that is not just based on patterns that have been built in from a young age. So going back and finding it where in the childhood these things developed and transcending them that way. So, very important to know these according to the book. Now, another concept that it brings up is this idea that our lives and purpose is almost a distillation of a few things from our parents. Those being things that we might, if we think about it, change about how our parents live their lives, or some things that, another way to frame it, because obviously we can sometimes I can have a weird feeling about the idea of changing someone, but what we might have done differently or what they may let off to have been something they fell short on in their lives. You see what I'm saying? So seeing in our parents' lives where they may have fallen short, even to their own opinions, and realizing that we can sort of create this distillation of both of their lives. So, for example, let me just tell my personal experience. My father, you know, lived through the '60s, partied it up, hitchhiked, did the whole deal, and then just like battened down the hatch and went to school and got his job, and has been on a straight track since and lived a successful life. Supported me and just yeah. So just sort of instilling in me this idea that structure and groundedness and reliability and stability are important values. Now, on the other hand, my mother was an immigrant who overcame massive, impossible to some people, or rather, people were telling her things were impossible, and she would just not believe that and move through them. And in a way, sort of juggles a lot of balls and just like keeps a lot of things just flowing through her energy, and it's beautiful. So then what this book would say is that I'm in a way distilling or looking for a synthesis of these two things that are two experiences in life, and finding a place where they can come together nicely. So in a way, I do value stability, and I do see how important it is, and I feel uncomfortable sometimes when I'm not in that stability, and also realize that I can do anything and can be an unstoppable force, and no matter what, it's going to be okay. So that's this is my explanation of the Celestine Prophecies chapter. I forget what chapter it is, but appreciate you, and I hope you're having a great right now. I hope that came across well. I recorded this a few times because of the audio, but this one felt good. If I missed anything, I'll just put it in the next David's Daily.